Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. If you guys have been wondering what happened to the EAA 2311 Match X that we're doing a whole series on and why there hasn't been a video in a couple of weeks, well, here's the big update. FedEx lost it. So I felt like I wanted to bring you guys this little video to let you know how I feel about sending guns through the mail. It is really hard for me to trust any mail service at this point, because this has now happened to me twice, and I have not sent that many guns through the mail. We're going to start with a very quick story about this Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. When I very first started the channel 3 years ago, this was like, it wasn't my only pistol, but I think I only had one other pistol. And I didn't have any pistols with optics, and I wanted to put an optic on this. And so I sent this slide, and I sent it through the United States Postal Service because it wasn't an actual gun. The gun is the lower on a pistol, and they lost the slide. And now this has happened again, but this time with a whole gun. So with this first one, months went by. Months and months. And I'd paid for the insurance on this slide. I sent it off to a company to get cut for an optic and Cerakote. And the Postal Service admitted that they lost it. And in fact, after a couple months, I even got the packaging back, and it looked like it had been ran over with a forklift and there was nothing inside it anymore. But you know what? USPS wouldn't honor that insurance that I paid for, which kind of begs the question, what's the point of the insurance when you pay for it? They admit that they lost what you sent, and then they don't want to pay it out. And eventually, after a lot of fighting, the actual local postmaster here cut me a check for the amount of a slide. I bought a new slide, had to send it back, which kind of worried me, but this time it made it there. Got cut for the optic, Cerakote, came back, and I've had this gun ever since. I definitely didn't think that that would happen to me twice, but here we are. So, the 2311 Match X. It's a gun that a lot of people were really interested in. I got it right when it released, just to be able to do content on this channel, and because I love 2011, they're my favorite pistols, and things were going well with it. In fact, I'd already replaced the recoil system. I got a Surefire X300 for it. I got a Holosun EPS full size because this sits on the RMSC footprint that gun has. Bought a bunch of extra Checkmate 2011 mags for it. So I'd spent a bunch of money on it already. I'd only put 200 rounds through it. And I worked out a really cool deal with the owner of Cosent Arms. Great guy. His name is Greg. And if you have a 2311 Match X or any other 2011, I haven't seen his work yet because I haven't gotten my gun back, obviously. But from what I have seen, he does great work, and he's been a pleasure to work with on the phone so far. So anyway, Greg offered to do some work on this gun for me. EGW sent me a bunch of internal parts, their ignition kit for it. And so I sent the gun off to Cosent Arms. FedEx did it the right way, the legal way, through my FFL. They packaged it up. They put the right postal label on it, the FedEx shipping label, and sent it off. And I got the tracking information. And 2 weeks went by, and it had been sitting in the same spot in South Carolina for an entire week. Where it was going, Cosent Arms, is in North Carolina. And I'm just kind of wondering what is going on with this thing. It hasn't moved in a week, but I'm trying not to get worried about it. I'm thinking there is no way that this same thing could happen to me twice, right? So I'm waiting. I have to give it to another guy, and I'm not going to mention him on the channel because I don't want to put him out there. He's already helped me enough. Luckily, I got a phone call after it had been supposedly sitting in South Carolina for a week from a guy that owns a gunsmithing shop in Kansas. He calls me up, he goes, hey, I received this EAA 2311, and what am I supposed to do with it? Like, he doesn't know me, he doesn't know anything about this gun. FedEx sent my gun to another gun shop, a different gun shop in a totally different state. This video is sponsored by Venice AI. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Venice AI yet, but it's pretty cool. AI, artificial intelligence, it is like the hot new thing the last couple of years. Everybody's heard of ChatGPT, DeepSeek. Well, DeepSeek's software is open source. So Venice AI basically used that, but what they did is they made it private and permissionless. The thing is DeepSeek, yeah, you can use its incredible features to do all of the things that AI can do for you, but all of your information gets stored on Chinese servers and of course can also be censored by the Chinese. Well, Venice AI uses that same software, but it is private. You don't have to worry about any of your private information getting, stolen by the Chinese, which is pretty sweet. ChatGPT is the other big one that everybody seems to really be using a lot for, well, as a tool to do all kinds of incredible things. But one of the guys on the board of ChatGPT was also on the board of the NSA, which we all know what they do. They spy on us. Well, Venice AI, you don't have to worry about that either. So check out Venice AI using my link, first link in the description down below. That link is venice.ai/Sawtooth Tactical. And in fact, you can get 20% off a pro plan using code Sawtooth Tactical. So check it out. If you want to use all of the powerful things that AI can give you, but privately and securely and encrypted, use my link. Again, venice.ai/Sawtooth Tactical, 20% off with code Sawtooth Tactical. So back to the story here. So my 2311 Match X ends up in a totally different state with all of the parts that EGW has already sent me for it, with the staccato recoil spring and the Wilson combat buffer that I put in it. A significant amount of money that I've already invested in this. Plus, EGW invested in it. They sent me the parts to do the videos with. I didn't want to have to ask them for those parts again. I also didn't want to have to pay for another 2311 that I already paid $1,000 for. I also don't even know if I can get one. They're on allocation right now. My gun shop only got one. They don't know when they can even get another one. So I get a hold of FedEx and I'm like, hey, you guys sent my gun to the wrong place. They didn't believe me. In fact, dealing with FedEx customer service is a total nightmare. I'm pretty sure it's in India, just judging by how everybody I dealt with sounded on the phone. And all that they do is they stare at a computer, and that's where all of their information comes from. And so no matter what I told them, they thought, nope, no, don't worry. Your package is still sitting in South Carolina. It just hasn't been delivered yet. And I couldn't convince them otherwise. I went to the local FedEx place in my town here, explained that to them. The guy whose gunsmithing shop the gun actually ended up at sent me pictures to my phone. And this was just really lucky. I wrote a handwritten note to Coast Arms, Greg there, about what I wanted done with the firearm and all this stuff. And it had my phone number and email address in that letter. Luckily, the gun went to an actual FFL and FedEx didn't just drop it off on somebody's doorstep. So this guy opened it up because he does receive guns to do work on them for people. He found my letter inside that happened to have my phone number. Otherwise, it would still be completely lost right now. So he calls me up and he lets me know that he has this. It took me over a week of trying to convince FedEx of what happened. And even when I thought that I had him convinced, and I finally started getting fed up. I'm a pretty nice guy. But I got to the point where I was like, come on, are you guys like, it's here, pick it up there, and take it where it's supposed to go. And the only way we finally got it to work, I had to tell them that, hey, this is a firearm. You guys lost a gun. And then all of a sudden it became a big deal. Then they called me. I had to go back into my local FedEx spot, give them all the information. I had to give them the serial number, what kind of gun was in it, what it looked like, the color, just all this stuff. And I actually got someone that spoke American English on the phone at FedEx while I was in the FedEx location here. And we finally got it figured out. But it took, from the time I sent it until the time that they figured out that what I was telling them was the truth. They told me that somebody was trying to scam me, that my package just hadn't been delivered. I'm like, dude, the guy's not trying to scam me. He sent me pictures of it. He has my gun. And it had the correct shipping label on it to go to North Carolina, but it ended up in Kansas. I don't know how. It makes no sense to me, and I feel like I'm just lucky that it went to an actual FFL. But luckily, they did finally pick it up, and it took 1 day once they picked it up to get it to the right place. So the gun is no longer lost. We will have an update on the 2311 Match X if that's something you've been following along. That's like the build series that we're working on right now. And normally, when I do a build series like this, I try to have videos every week or at least every other week, every time there's new parts or some new upgrade. It's gonna come back as a really amazing gun. And so I'm really excited about it. It should have a multicam Cerakote job, I believe. It should have an aluminum grip module. It will have the EGW parts installed. I was gonna do that work myself, but Greg at Cozen Arms says, this is what we do. We are pros at tuning 2011s. Let me do that for you. And I was like, all right, I've taken apart some guns. I've built some guns. I felt pretty confident in my abilities, but he does this every day. And since he offered to do it so that we could show the kind of work that his company does on the channel here, I said, dude, right on, let's go for it. So I'm sure it's still going to take some more time. He just got it, even though I sent it over 3 weeks ago. But it should be coming back soon, and we will have a new update. It should be, I'm hoping, the coolest EAA 2311 Match X out there once I get it back from Cozen Arms. They do custom 2011 work. And so the budget Staccato XC, I think should be closer to a budget Staccato XC when we get it back. And it should, like if it's anything like my Prodigy, put the EGW parts, lighter recoil spring, mainspring, all that in the Prodigy, and it made it a really, really good gun that competes with other much higher end, more expensive 2011s at this part. I've shot a lot of really nice 2011s. You put EGW parts, lighter recoil spring, all that stuff in a Prodigy. If you were doing a blind taste test, it would be hard to tell the difference between this and some much more expensive ones. And I'm hoping that the 2311 is going to be the same way. And it should be. That EGW ignition kit is chef's kiss. I've already put an 8-pound recoil spring and buffer in it, which is the same recoil system I'm running in the Prodigy, and put another 100 rounds through it, and it ran great with that recoil system in it. It feels much more like a 2011 should, where, the slide just feels like it's, on glass, ball bearings, whatever term you like to use. A lighter recoil spring gives it that feeling when it's already really smooth, which was one of the things that I was impressed about that gun when I first looked at it at Guffey's Gun and Pawn, my local gun shop, was the smoothness of the slide. When I added the lighter recoil spring, it just felt that much better, just like the Prodigy did when we did the same thing to it. It's going to have an Atlas flat face trigger in it, just like this Prodigy, hopefully tuned just like this Prodigy. This is 2.4 pounds and as crisp as can be. And so I'm hoping to have a really, really high-end budget 2011 coming back soon. Budget comped 2011 coming back very soon to show you guys. So if that was something you're following, stay in touch and keep watching the channel. There will be an update soon. Hopefully FedEx doesn't lose it on the way back. I kind of can't believe this happened to me twice. Once with my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 here, and now with my newest pistol purchase, the 2311 Match X. Kind of crazy to me. Luckily at this point, that 2311 I bought as a fun gun, as a gun to show on the channel, as a gun to upgrade into a really nice 2011. It's not my only pistol. It's not my concealed carry gun or my home defense gun or anything like that. So I can survive without it until it comes back. Whereas when this slide was gone, this was my main pistol that I trusted at that point. That was kind of a big deal to me. This is a big deal too. A whole gun is a lot more expensive than just a slide, but luckily it did finally go to where it's supposed to go. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments, have you ever sent a firearm, a whole firearm FedEx or firearm parts in the USPS or UPS? And has your experience worked out? Do I just have terrible luck that this has happened to me twice? I haven't sent very many guns. I mean, sent this slide. I sent this Prodigy to Skip's Guns to do the initial work on it, and that went where it was supposed to and came back just like it was supposed to. But I haven't really sent any other guns anywhere. I do all my work myself on my stuff. And so this is, out of 3 times, 2 times that my packages got lost. I mean, that's a crazy coincidence. Has this happened to any of you guys? I'd love to hear from you. And if it has, let me know what happened and how it got resolved. In the end, the Postal Service did buy me a new slide. And in the end on this one, it finally did make it to the right location, which is nice. I'm glad I'm not stressing out about it anymore. I'm glad that FedEx finally found it, figured out where it was, got it where it was supposed to go. The funny thing is, too, is they called me afterward and tried to tell me that it was my gun shop's fault. But it's not, because the guy where it ended up, sent me pictures of it, and it had the correct shipping label where it was supposed to go. And the tracking information that I got after they sent it had the address where it was supposed to go, and it ended up in a different state. It was not my local gun shop's fault. They did everything right. They always have. They're a fantastic shop, Guffey's Gun and Pawn. I totally trust those guys. Everything that you see here in this video came through Guffey's Gun and Pawn, either bought directly from them or at least transferred through them. They didn't do anything wrong. FedEx just won't admit that they lost my gun. So I got to give it to them, though. They did finally find it, pick it up, take it to the right place. So anyway, if you found this video interesting, please give me a like. Make sure you're subscribed. Let me know if this happened to you. And, stay tuned, because we will have that gun back on the channel, totally customized and upgraded. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.